but he actually had high testosterone levels. If we go down, then we see that this individual also had very high SHBG, which is to be expected. And he had significant markers of iron overload. In fact, if you look at his transferrin saturation, absolutely massive, 86%. His ferritin was above 1,000. His gamma GT, which is a marker of liver dysfunction, was 167. So this guy had progressed pretty far, and we see that there was definitely a correlation between sex hormone binding globulin and this overall tendency of the liver to accumulate iron. You see, I watched this a couple of months ago, and you see his total testosterone is on the high side for sure. It's in the 900s, very close to the reference range. But you see that his free testosterone percentage is pretty low. Let's see what he had to say about that.
There is one piece of these hormones that continues to interest me that I'll talk about. You can see the free testosterone is 14.37 nanograms per deciliter. It's 1.59%. I would like that to be a little higher. And I think that that is because my sex hormone binding globulin remains a little bit higher than I'd like to see it. You can see here the SHBG on this test was 97.5.
We see that the iron saturation is up at 42%, which is higher than I would like to see it personally. And then we also go back to a month prior and look at another test that he'd done, and you see that the iron saturation was all the way up at 54%. So this is kind of in the danger zone. It's a very similar pattern that I saw in myself. His most recent blood work update in December 2022. Right, so what we can see is a positive trend. We see that the total testosterone comes down, but that's really quite irrelevant because what we also see is that the free testosterone goes up. The iron saturation, coincidentally, has gone down. And then if we look at the sex hormone binding globulin, well, that has also gone down significantly. Remember, it was up at 97 and it's gone down to 69. So let's listen to what Paul actually, how he managed to achieve this.
And for the majority of the time since the last blood draw in August, I've actually been doing phlebotomy. So I've been going to a practitioner who will just take my blood and then we just give it to plants or throw it out. So essentially bleeding out of my vein. And I'm doing about 200 cc's of blood every 3 to 4 weeks. Now, I don't have hemochromatosis, but if you look at my blood work, and I'll go back to that in a moment, my ferritin was creeping up, my iron saturation was creeping up, and my transferrin saturation was creeping up. And hat tip to Elliot Overton, who made a comment on one of my YouTube videos and said, you should think about iron overload. This is something where I've learned in the past few months, and it's why I wanted to share this with you guys. I never really thought that a ferritin of 250 or 300 was problematic for most humans, but I'm having to question that in my own mind now. And I think that if I continue doing phlebotomy and my SHBG continues to come down as I get rid of excess iron, then this may lend support for the hypothesis.
Yeah, so this is exactly what happened to me. It's exactly what I've seen on a clinical basis. So as I started donating blood, as I brought down my transferrin saturation levels, my sex hormone binding globulin levels followed quite nicely. And it seems to be a very effective way to bring sex hormone binding globulin down if there is evidence of iron overload. The best way to check for evidence of iron overload, if you suspect that this might be a problem for you, is to look at your transferrin saturation. If you're in the US, you might be doing iron saturation, although transferrin saturation is the best marker.
Annotated and summarized, easy to share with loved ones. The description below the title for this video has these summary points.